Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. Welcome. We have an amazing shir for today, Parshas Vayakhel, and we'll begin with good news. I know that many of you ask the Manishtana on the Yom Tov of Pesach, and Pesach is very connected to the number 4. We had 4 questions, we have 4 sons, we have 4 Lashonos of Geula, we have many things for Kaisais. And this year, we have 4 Svarim on Pesach. And you can actually say the Manishtana in 4 languages. That's right. Besides the Art Scroll Haggadah in English, that looks like this. And if you could locate it on Ephraim's shelf, then you can get a special prize. This year, besides the Hebrew Maggid Harakiah, which is not on the Haggadah only, it's also on Chodesh Nisan and on the Yom Tov of Pesach and Tzvi Shel Pesach and on the Haggadah. This year, 2 more languages are coming out, French and Spanish, in order to give you the opportunity to say the Manishtana in even more languages than you thought. Okay, so all of these volumes will be available in local Svarim stores, or you could order them on our site, rabbidg.com. We have a very special shir today, an amazing shir, Parshas Vayakhel. We know that I find the more things change, the more they stay the same. The Medrash tells us that Rabbi Akiva was darshaning, the Hatzibur misnamneim, and the people were dozing off. They were falling asleep. Sounds like a very strange phenomenon, people falling asleep during a shir. I don't know, maybe it was like the 3rd Agra of the Pirkei shir of the day. It was the end of the day, and people were dozing off. Bikesh la'oiran, Rabbi Akiva wanted to wake them up. Amar, he said as follows, Ma ra'asa Esther shatimleich al sheva ve'esrim me'a medina. What did Esther see to it that she should rule over 127 medinos? In other words, why was Esther zoicha to rule over 127 provinces? Says the Medrash, Ela Tavai Esther Shahisa Bas Bita Shel Sarah. Let Esther come, who's the granddaughter of Sarah. Shahisa Kuf V'Chaf V'Zayin. Sarah was 127 years. V'Simlech Al Kuf V'Chaf V'Zayin Medinos. And Esther was Zoicha to rule over 127 Medinos. In other words, why was Esther Roy Zoicha to rule over 127 Medinos? In the merit of her righteous ancestor, Sarah, who lived 127 years. And the Chacham Sofer, in his introduction, the Masechta Chulin, has a very important question over here. Number 1, really, that is so interesting. Wow, that's so exciting. Why was Esther Zoicha to rule over 127 medinos in the merit of Esther of Sarah's 127 years? Wow, that's fascinating. I don't know about you, but if I was tired and the Rebbe started with that, maybe I would be out cold. What is so interesting about the fact that Esther ruled over 127 medinos in the merit of the 127 righteous years of Sarah? And second of all, what's going on over here? There seems to be we're playing favoritism here to Sarah. Why are we attributing Esther's 127 provinces to 127 years of Sarah? What, Sarah's the only one who lived 127 righteous years? What about Avraham? Avraham lived till 175. He recognized Hashem at 48 years old, says the Chacham Sofer. In that case, do the math. 175 minus 48 is 127. So Avraham Avinu also lived 127 righteous years. So why are we attributing the 127 dinos of Esther to Sarah's righteousness? Maybe it was because of Avraham's righteousness. Asks the Chacham Sofer in his Hakdama to Masechta Chulin. In this week's Parsha, we discuss a special donation to the Mishkan. In Truma, we talked about the donations of many of the precious items. In Vayakhel, we talk about the donations of the Avnei Shayham. V'hanasiim heviu eis Avnei HaShayham v'yeis Avnei Amiluim lo yifod v'lachoshen. Says Rashi, Amar of Nasan. Why did the Nasiim donate to the Mizbeach first. In Chodesh Nisan, many read about the donations of the Nesiim to the Mizbeach, and in B'Meleches HaMishkan, they donated last. So Rashi says the Nesiim made the following cheshbon. They said, let the tzibur donate what they donate, and whatever is missing, we will complete. So when they came to Moshe, said, Moshe, okay, what's needed? What's left? Moshe said, nothing. So what did they do? The only thing they could bring is the Avnei Shoyham. So by the Chanukas HaMizbeach, they brought first. But because they were lazy in the beginning, there is a letter missing from their name, and they're called Nesiim Chasar Yud. Okay? Which is interesting to try to understand what exactly was the cheshbon of the Nesiim, and why, in fact, did they make this offer. At first glance, it would seem it was a good offer. I mean, imagine any wealthy person comes to a shul and he says, you know what, I want to build you a new shul. And here's the deal, make a building campaign, or whatever is needed at the end, we will donate. Wow, that's great. That's very magnanimous. But here, there was a taina on the Nesiim for saying, okay, let everybody else donate and we'll be mashlim what's missing. So exactly what was the cheshbon of the Nesiim, and what did they do wrong? By the way, it's interesting. Regarding the location of where these Avnei Shayim and Avnei Miluim came from, Targum Yonasan says, Va'anane Shemaya Uzlin Lepishain, the clouds of heaven went to Pishain, to the Nile, Vidalian Mitamai, Yas Avnei Burlavas, Chaylav, Yas Avnash Musul, Shakabe Faida, the Avnei Shayam, the Avnei Miluim, for the Choshen and the Ephod. And they deposited these things in the midbar for the Nesiim to bring. And then the clouds went, and they went to Gan Eden, and they brought from there the Shemen Lamar, and the Besamim, the Busma Bechira, Mishcha Dezesa, Afars Madachia, and further Ketairas. It's interesting, the Archaim HaKadosh in Parshas Truma is bothered by a question, why by the Avnei Shayham and the Avnei Miluim are they listed after the other 11 items that were brought? They were so special, they were so eminent, they were so valuable, they should have been Mesader before the gold and the silver. The order should have been Avnei Shayham, Avnei Miluim, Zahav Chesef Unachoshes. Why were they mentioned last? So the Archaim HaKadosh says that because the Nesiim brought them last, after everything else was donated, and by doing so, they acted improperly and they acted with a degree of atzlos, so therefore their items were listed last as well. Okay, so again, this tradition of Chazal that the Nesiim donated the items last explains why their items were mentioned last. Or the Archaim HaKadosh says that the Anonim would bring them the Avnei Shayam from Gan Eden, so it was Mishulchan Gavaya, without Tircha, without Yegia, without Chisar and Kiss, so therefore it's missing a Yud, and it's listed last. Okay, be it as it may, we're trying to uncover a little bit what was the cheshbon of the Nesiim in fact donating the Avnei Sham, Avnei Miluim last after everybody. There is a classic machlekes, there's a status of learning Torah that you need to learn Shas and Poskim. You have to learn Talmud Bavli, and you also have to learn Poskim. So today we're going to learn some of the Poskim, a classic machlekes among the Poskim. And we have a very interesting shaila brought in the Shailas Ustubas Radvaz, Chelek Daled, Simin, Yud Gimel. The Radvaz of David ibn Avi Zimra lived from 1480 to 1574. He was among the Gerushe Sfarad. He moved to Tzvas, then to Shalayim, then to Cairo, where he was a Rav in Cairo for 40 years. He had eminent Talmidim, Rabbi Tzalel Ashkenazi, the Shita Mekubetzes, the Arizal. He wrote of almost 2,500 shuvos. Let's say you have a guy who's in jail. And he can't get out. The captors will not allow him out to daven with a minyan, to do mitzvahs. And he begged before the warden, and they didn't want to listen. They said, you know what? Once a year we'll let you out. Which day should he go out? So the Radvaz says that he saw that one of the Chachamim of his generation swam in deep waters, and all he brought up was pottery and emptiness. And his whole building is built on faulty terrain. First, this Chacham wanted to say he should go out on Yom Kippur. And then he said, no, not Yom Kippur, Purim, because of Persumei Nisa. Says the Radvaz, it's all nonsense. You know when he should go out? Today. He should go out today. Why? Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. It's a klal in Shas. Nobody argues with the principle Ein mavirin ala mitzvahs. Therefore, mitzvah rishayna shetava liyadai, that it's EF shalasos in the jail, he should do that mitzvah. And it doesn't matter whether the mitzvah is a small mitzvah, a little mitzvah. You want to know which day you should go out? Not Purim, not Pesach, not Yom Kippur, not even Rabbi Shaila's yahrzeit. When should he go out? He should go out today, as soon as he has the opportunity. Why? Ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvahs. We do not pass over mitzvahs. And that's one of the reasons we're learning this shir, because as Passover is coming, I don't want anyone to chas v'shalom think we could pass over mitzvahs. So, although we have a Yom Tov of Passover, that's Hashem passed over our homes. When it comes to mitzvahs, says Radvaz, ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. Ham shal s'tshuvas Chacham Tzvi. Chacham Tzvi of Tzvi Harsha Ashkenazi, 1660 to 1718. And in Siman Kuvav, he brings down the shaila of the Radvaz. He brings down the Radvaz's response that ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs, and he asks the following bumba. He asks a bomb question on the Radvaz. Again, the Radvaz says, ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. Mitzvah haba liyadcha al tachmitzena. Ask the Heilige Chacham Tzvi, the Gemara in Parakat Chilas, Daf Mem Tes says, a tzibur that doesn't have the carbon tamid and the carbon musaf, and they can only get one animal, which one should come first? So the Gemara says, wait a second, the case is the musaf of today and the tamid of tomorrow. The musaf of today or the tamid of tomorrow? Do we say tadir adif, tomorrow's tamid, or mekudush adif, the musaf? And if the Radvaz is right, even if you want to say tadir is adif, and therefore you should do, right? The shaila is what's more important, tadir or mekudash? The tadir of the tamid or the mekudash of the musaf? Frek the Chacham Tzvi. If the Radvaz is right, then mitzvah bo liyadcha al tachmitzena, then even if tadir is adif, the musaf comes first. Ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. It must be we don't say ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. That's only if they're both equal. Ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs is if both mitzvahs are equal, or within one mitzvah. We say ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. But if one is better, then of course we're going to wait for the greater one. Meaning, the Gemara has a shaila, what's greater, tadir or mekudash? Even if tadir is greater, but the musaf comes first, ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. It must be, no, if tadir is greater, that will override ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. So from here we learn that more important than ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs is to do the greater mitzvah. So while the Radvaz says, when you have two mitzvahs, do the mitzvah that comes up first, the Chacham Tzvi says, no, we see from this Gemara that you do the greater mitzvah. The greater mitzvah takes precedence. The Chacham Tzvi says, well, there are limited circumstances where I would agree to the Radvaz to do the mitzvah that comes up first. In the first parak of Moed Katan, Rabbi Yochanan ben Asmai asked the stira. One pasuk says, weigh the circuit of your feet. Another pasuk says, do not weigh the path of your feet. So the Gemara says, if it's efshar la'asos ha'idei acherim, that's one thing. Efshar la'asos ha'idei acherim, then you don't evaluate it. Says Rashi, you know when you evaluate mitzvahs and you try to determine which one is greater and you do the greater one, that's if it's possible that the other mitzvah somebody else will do. But when it says mitzvah baliyotcha al tachmitzena, don't evaluate it, that's if nobody could do the other mitzvah. So you have to, meaning, if it's efshar la'asos ha'idei acherim, if someone else could do it, so you do the bigger one and let your friend do the smaller one. But if it's not possible to do through others, then just do the first mitzvah. So the Radvaz, who says just do the first mitzvah, he's talking about a mitzvah that you can't do al yidei acherim. So if a mitzvah that cannot be done al yidei acherim, you do the first one. But if either way they'll both be done, then do the greater one. So the opinion of the Chacham Tzvi is you do the greater mitzvah. The opinion of the Chacham Tzvi is you do the greater mitzvah. When do you do the first one? You do the first one when it's efshar al yidei acherim. When it comes to Birchas Halavana, that the Rama says you wait until the best time to do it, even let's say on a Matzah Shabbos. So why do we wait over there? Why don't we say it's efshar al yidei acherim, so just do it right away? That's because there the mitzvah itself is going to be done in a better way later. Therefore, we want to wait to be mekayim outside hayoser tov. Meaning like this. The opinion of the Chacham Tzvi is when you have two mitzvahs, you're going to do the greater mitzvah, even if the other mitzvah presents itself sooner. So you're going to always wait to do the greater mitzvah, unless it's efshar al yidei acherim. When it comes to Kiddush Savana, you're going to wait because that mitzvah itself could be done outside hayoser tov, or by tmidim umusafin, the same reason. Why over there are we going to say we'll do the greater mitzvah? The answer is because it's one mitzvah. They're both karbanos. So if they're both karbanos, you're going to do the greater mitzvah. But if it's efshar al yidei acherim, then in fact we'll say ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. So basically, the Chacham Tzvi is usually quoted as holding that if you have two mitzvahs, you do the greater mitzvah. You'll even wait. Meaning, the Chacham Tzvi seemingly would say, if you could get out of jail one day, what day should you get out? Yom Kippur or Purim, but not today. No, the Radvaz says, get out today. Go immediately and go do the mitzvah, even if it's a random Tuesday. Put on talis, put on tefillin. You could wait 2 months for Yom Kippur. No, that's a different mitzvah. You do the mitzvah right away. The Chacham Tzvi is of the opinion, no, let's do the better mitzvah. The question on the Radvaz is that the Chacham Tzvi had a chokehold on the Radvaz. Chacham Tzvi brought the Gemara that said the musaf of today or the tamid of tomorrow, do we say tadir adif or do we say mekudesh adif? The opinion of the Gemara says that's the shaila. So Chacham Tzvi says, what do you mean? Even if tadir is adif, you're gonna bring the carbon musaf because it's immediate, it's now. So we see from there that we don't necessarily perform the first mitzvah that comes its way. In other words, the Radvaz says, do zrizas adif, perform the first mitzvah that comes your way. And the Chacham Tzvi said, if that was the case, then why is the Gemara asking the Musaf of today or the Tamid of tomorrow? Even if you say that Tadir is better than Mekudash, but the Musaf is presenting itself right now. So that shows, not like the Radvaz, that we don't necessarily do the mitzvah that comes its way first. So actually the Ber Heitev brings this question of the Chacham Tzvi, and he says, this is a question on the Radvaz. And the Ber Heitev answers the question on the Radvaz by quoting the Sefer Leker HaKemach. And what's very interesting is that the Leker HaKemach defends the Radvaz from the Chacham Tzvi's question. And the Svara the Leker HaKemach gives for the Radvaz, it's interesting, is a different Svara than what we're going to see in the Chasam Sofer. The Leker HaKemach says, what's the reason why the Radvaz holds? Just do the first mitzvah that comes your way. You know why? Because Chayshina and Shemayamas, we're afraid you might die. You're going to wait for a greater mitzvah, you might not be around tomorrow to do the greater mitzvah. So therefore, the Leker HaKemach says the svara of the Radvaz is you might die. You're going to wait around in jail till Yom Kippur. You're going to tell the Hamas captor, oh, my nice Hamas captor, I'm going to wait 5 months until Yom Kippur to go out of jail. Who says you're going to be around in 5 months? Says Leker HaKemach, that's a good svara when we're dealing with an individual. But when we're dealing with karbanos and we're dealing with a tzibor can't die. So therefore, the whole svara of the Radvaz doesn't apply. There's no kasha on the Radvaz from the Gemara that talks about karbanos. Yeah, in the Gemara that talks about karbanos, doing the mitzvah right away is not a factor. Why is it not a factor? The whole reason to do the mitzvah right away is Shema Yamos. Shema Yamos is not applicable by a tzibor. It's only applicable by a yachid. So one thing here in the Leker HaKemach is we see that he holds that the svara of the Radvaz is Shema Yamos. What's interesting is in the writings of the Chasam Sofer very often plays around with this machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi, and the Chacham Sofer supplies a completely different svara for the Radvaz than the Leker HaKemach. The pasuk says, "Ushmartem es hamatzos ki be'etzem hayom hazeh vayseitzi es tzevaisechem me'eretz Mitzrayim." Guard the matzos, because in middle of this very day I took out your hosts from the land of Egypt. Rashi says, "Al tikri matzos ela mitzvos, mitzvah haba liyadcha al tachmitzena." That guard the matzos. Why? Because I took you out of Egypt on this very day. What does doing mitzvahs with alacrity and energy and swiftly have to do with the fact that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim on that very day? Says the Chasam Sofer, I refer you to the famous machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi. What's better, Zrizus or mitzvah min hamuvchar? Radvaz says Zrizus. Chacham Tzvi says mitzvah min hamuvchar. Throughout the writings of the Chasam Sofer, he always sides with the Radvaz. Says the Chasam Sofer, the reason why, for the Radvaz, of why you should do the mitzvah right away is not because maybe you're going to die. You know why? So what if you die? You wanted to do the mitzvah, and chishev lasos mitzvah, v'nenas v'lo yasa mal olav ki lo asa. You wanted to do the mitzvah, and if you want to do a mitzvah, it's considered like you did the mitzvah. So what? Maybe you'll die, but you wanted to do it. You're an einus, so it's like you did it. No. Says the Chasam Sofer, that's not the chashash. The chashash is not maybe you'll die. The chashash is maybe you'll go off the derech. Like Chazal say, that Yochanan Kohen Gadol served B'Kehuna Gadol for 80 years and then he veered off. It's because al tamein ba'atzmecha. Maybe the Yetzer Hara will convince you not to do the mitzvah. maybe the Yetzer Hara will persuade you not to do the mitzvah. What are we worried about the Yetzer Hara? Really? Me? But I have a long beard, and I wear a long black coat, so I'm for sure going to do the mitzvah. The Yetzer Hara doesn't start up with people who look very frum. No. We tell the Yetzer Hara, you never know. You know why you have to do the mitzvah right away? Because I took you out of Mitzrayim on that very day. Why did Hashem take us out of Mitzrayim that very day? Because we're in danger. What were we in danger of? We're in danger of falling to the 50th level of Tumah. Klal Yisrael falling to the 50th level of Tumah, but they were loishinu es bigdayim. They were wearing very religious garb. Yeah, even if you wear very religious garb, you could still sink to the 50th level of Tumah. So the Chassam Sofer says, the chashash that the Radvaz is concerned for is not Shema Yamos, because who cares Shema Yamos? You still can activate Chishev Lases Mitzvah Venenas. The reason of the Chassam Sofer is, the reason for the Radvaz, the Chassam Sofer says, is you might veer off. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk says, "Shmartem es hamatzos." You better do make the matzos with energy, and don't be lazy, because you never know. The Yetzer Hara could convince you ultimately not to do the mitzvah. Where do we learn that from? He be'etzem hayom hazeh hoitzesi et tzivayiseichem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Another place where the Chassam Sofer uses this is, there's a famous shaila. The Gemara in Brachas talks about Dav Tes. By the way, what I just spoke at is in the Chassam Sofer HaChadash and Parshas Boy. Now let me tell you what it's brought in the Sefer Chassam Sofer HaChadash and Parshas B'Shalach. There's a shaila. What's better, saying Shema early in the day or mismach gula letfila? So let's say you want to say Shema all the way in the beginning of the day, but you won't have a minyan then, so you're going to daven later, or to daven later in the day. Is it better to say Shema earlier or to be somet gula letfila? And the conclusion is smicha gula letfila is better than davening earlier. Why? So isn't that a raya to the Chacham Tzvi that mitzvah min hamuvchar is adif than zrizus? Otherwise, why would we say wait to be somet gula letfila? Say Shema earlier. Says the Chassam Sofer already told you. What's the reason why the Radvaz says to do the mitzvah right away? Oh, he says to do it right away not because maybe you'll die, because we're not worried, Shema Yamos, because you wanted to do the mitzvah, so you'll be accredited as if you did it. The reason is because maybe the Yetzer Hara will get a hold of you, but not for Shema. Shema is a matter of emunah. Emunah, we're not concerned the Jew will veer off. When Moshe Rabbeinu said that v'heim lo yaminu li, Hashem said no, heim maminim b'nei maminim. When it comes to emunah, we're not worried the Yetzer Hara is going to get a hold of us. So Chassam Sofer again utilizes this machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi. He understands that the reason for the Radvaz is not maybe you'll die, it's maybe the Yetzer Hara will get a hold of you, and he says that doesn't apply to emunah. By the way, here's another fascinating shaila that the Sdei Chemet says may be dependent on the machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi. And in this case, usually we do follow the Chacham Tzvi. Is, let's say, a woman or even a man who has a hard time fasting, and he says, if I fast Tzom Gedalia, I don't think I'll be able to fast Yom Kippur. What should you do? The guy said, if I fast Tzom Gedalia, I don't think I'll be able to fast Yom Kippur. So it's a shaila, do we say zrizus? Look, Tzom Gedalia comes up first, so if it's fast Tzom Gedalia, even though it's minor compared to Yom Kippur, or do we say mitzvah min hamuvchar adif? And the Sdei Chemet at first glance says, l'chayra, it's dependent on the machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi. The Radvaz would say, fast right away. Yom Kippur, no, you can't wait. Don't wait. It's not advisable to wait. And the Chacham Tzvi says, no, mitzvah min hamuvchar adif. Dear friends, When was the first time this machlokes came up? This machlokes Radvaz and Chacham. See, by the way, it's interesting. Halacha l'maisa, who do we paskin like? You know, the Chayadam in Klal Samaches writes 3, even though in general, ein mavirin ala mitzvos, there are 3 exceptions to the rule. If you're not able to keep both of them, you go after the more chamor one. Chamor would mean da'iraisa, it would mean tadir, it would mean mekudash, even if it means waiting till tomorrow. So anshe mishmar, if you're a family of kehanim, better to wait till the next day if it's Yom Kippur than to do the avodah today. However, the Chayadam says you only wait a day or 2. More than that, maybe we are worried. Shema Yamas. Another exception, the din of ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs is only if you're involved in the mitzvah. But if you see the mitzvah from afar, you're allowed to go to the greater mitzvah you're allowed to go to the greater mitzvah. So ein ma'avirin ala mitzvahs, however, that's only if you're oisek in the mitzvah. If you're not oisek, then you're allowed to go see the other mitzvah. Or, if you could tomorrow do this mitzvah in a better way, it's better to wait, like we say by Kiddush Savana. However, the Sefer Hasidim says, if you could do it right away, even not as beautiful, do it right away. Friends, you know where the first time the machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi played out? It played out in the year 2047. And you know who the Balei Plukta were? Avraham and Sarah. And the guests were coming. And Avraham and Sarah were sitting around the table and they were arguing the machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham. The guests were coming. Sarah said, mitzvah min hamuvchar, soiles. We're going to sift the flour with 13 sifts. Avram said, no, kemach, you're going to give them coarse flour. Who knows what could happen if you wait and give them such delicious bread? And what happened? Sarah became a nida. She couldn't give them the bread. V'lechem atzlus loy soichel. When you have a little bit of atzlus, you don't end up eating anything. V'lechem atzlus loy soichel. The machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi was machlokes Avraham and Sarah. Shloish se'im kemach soiles. Sarah said soiles. Avraham said no, kemach. Coarse flour. Now, in the times of Purim, the Jews were spread out in 127 Medinas. Why? Why weren't we in one Medina? Why were we so spread out? That's not good for us. It's not good for righteous people to be so spread out. It's better when we're all together. The answer is because in the times of Purim, we didn't really have the requisite merit to deserve to be in one place. We had to be scattered. Really? Why is that? What merit were we missing? What was our infraction in the times of Purim? So the Gemara tells us in Masechet Megillah, Daf Yirafam and Rabbi Lezer, Pasach la Pischa l'hai parshasa mehacha ba'atzaltayim yimach hamakara uveshiflos yadayim yidloif habayis. That because of the laziness that Klal Yisrael had, that we were not oisik in Torah, so Hashem, so to speak, made himself poor from helping us. The Chasam Sofer is Akdama to Chulin on the Mishnah Hakol Shoichdin. Hakol Shoichdin. The Chasam Sofer says, what do you mean Hakol Shoichdim? We know not everyone's allowed a shacht. We know that when it comes to Bedikas Chametz, women, we do not rely on women for Bedika. The Gemara says a rule. Nashim atzlani oisheim. women have a degree of laziness more than men. Women also are not relied upon to check a knife for this very reason. Even though they have many talents and abilities, and in some ways they have more proficiency than men, not when it comes to this type of craft, to be able to check a knife. They won't have necessarily the same alacrity, and therefore we can't rely on them to check the knife or for bedikas chametz. It's interesting, in the times of Purim, it doesn't say we didn't learn. It doesn't say we didn't learn. The problem was we didn't learn with zrizos. We were violating tachas hashaloyavadatas Hashem lekecha besimcha v'tov levav. You know, the Parak Chav Beis of Tehillim ends off la'am noilad kiasa. We were like a generation that was reborn. But in Tefillah la'ani, Parak Chav Gimel, la'asid lava, it says ti kasav zois l'dar achraim va'am nivra yahalel ka. Am nivra is we have to be recreated, because in the end of days, then the Torah will be batel. But in the times of Purim, the Torah wasn't batel. It was just we were nisatzel, and because we were nisatzel, we were not zoicha to rule, to be in one location. By the way, the remez to Purim is from the pasuk ve'afisa soiles in Parshas Emor. Because in times of Purim, we were like Sarah, the balas hasoiles, not like Avram, the balas hakemach, because the main kemach ain't Torah. You need kemach, the midah of zrizus, to learn Torah. You know, let's say a person says, I'm so tired now, I'm just going to take a nap and I'll learn better later. Maybe you will learn Torah better later. But Emein kemach ain't Torah. You still should do it now. Zrizus trumps mitzvah min hamuvchar. In the times of Purim, Chazal did not want to attribute the 127 Medinos to the 127 righteous years of Abraham. Because if it would have been in the 127 righteous years of Abraham, we would not have to be scattered around the whole world. The reason why we were scattered in 127 Medinos is because we were, so to speak, guilty of that little bit of atzlus that Sarah Imenu also had. Where do we see Sarah's atzlus? Because she said soiles. Says the Chacham Sofer, that is how Rabbi Akiva wanted to wake up his Talmidim. Rabbi Akiva was telling his Talmidim, why was Esther Zocha to rule over 127 Medinos? Wink, wink. Why were Klal Yisrael scattered throughout the world and we're not Zocha to be in one centralized location? The answer is because we were following in the ways of Sarah, who also had this degree of atzlos. But this is not the midah that we aspire for. We aspire for the midah, the Baal HaKemach, Emein Kemach in Torah, the midah of Avram Avinu. If we would have been on the midah, on the madrega of Avram Avinu, we would have been in one centralized location. So the way Rabbi Akiva was waking up his Talmidim is he saw that they had a degree of atzlos. He was, so to speak, disparaging the midah of atzlos to his Talmidim. Ayin Sham in the Hakdama of the Chasam Sofer. It could be that the thought process of the Nesiim versus Klal Yisrael was also somewhat connected to this machlokes, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi, where the Nesiim said, yeah, we're going to do the mitzvah in the most beautiful way. You donate first, and we'll finish everything. We'll fulfill everything. And in fact, that's very generous and very magnanimous, but it's lacking in one area. What is it lacking in? Rashi says that because the Nesiim, there was nothing lacking in their Nadivos Halev. Their Nadivos Halev was full. What was lacking is Lefish and Atzlu. It's true, it's very generous to do it this way, but it's lacking in Zrizos, and therefore the letter Yud was missing from their name. And this also supports the position of the Chasam Sofer that when it's a choice between Mitzvah and Amuvchar and Zrizos, Zrizos will trump. And that's why in America and most places can say that, in fact, as soon as it's 3 days after the Moilad, do the Kiddush Levana right away. Why? Because as important as Mitzvah and Amuvchar is, but we have to also be concerned for the possibility that for whatever reason, maybe the time will come later and you won't be as enthused about the mitzvah and you'll lose out on the mitzvah. So that's the limud of the Nasiim, Lefisha Nasatzlu Metchila, Nechsura Ois Mishamam, and it's written missing a yud. This is a classic machlokes hapoiskim, the Radvaz and the Chacham Tzvi, and as we point out from the Chai Adam, who says in general we will say in Mavir ala mitzvahs, with some notable exceptions, namely, if it's Ev Shar L'Kayim Shneim, we'll do the more important one. Or if I didn't start the mitzvah yet, maybe I'll wait to do the more important one. So the Klolei HaMitzvahs are very nuanced. But nevertheless, this is the Machlokes Radvaz and Chacham Tzvi, that the Chassam Sofer seems in his drashas to usually side with the Radvaz, that mitzvah habali yadcha al tach mitzana. Have a great day, everyone. Bracha v'atzlacha. Kol tov. Kol tov.